Hey horror fans, ready to relive the spine-tingling, heart-pounding glory days of arcade horror? Today, we're diving into top 20 absolutely perfect arcade horror games. The classics that made us scream, laugh, and maybe toss a few extra quarters into the machine just to survive. These games didn't just give us jump scares, they created unforgettable moments of pure adrenaline. From blasting zombies with light guns to battling creepy clowns in haunted carnivals, these titles are perfect terror and fun. Whether you're a fan of cheesy voice acting, Looking at You, House of the Dead, or just love mowing down waves of monsters in a dimly lit arcade, this list has it all. So buckle up, grab your imaginary quarters, and let's take a stroll down memory lane to revisit these pixelated nightmares that defined a genre. And let us know in the comments which game gave you the biggest scare or the most laughs. Now, let's get spooky. Evil Night, 1998. If you've never had the pleasure or terror of experiencing Evil Night, let me paint you a picture. It's 1998, and you're in a dimly lit arcade with quarters jingling in your pocket. Suddenly, this Konami masterpiece catches your eye, its ominous title screen promising carnage and chaos. You and your friends grab the light guns, and before you know it, you're plunged into a cursed mansion full of zombies, ghouls, and things you really wish would stop jumping out at you. The plot is as delightfully cheesy as you'd expect from a late 90s arcade game. You're part of a rescue team sent to investigate a creepy mansion only to discover, surprise, it's infested with monsters. Your goal? Save the survivors, unravel the mystery, and not end up as Monster Chow. Each stage cranks up the tension, throwing waves of grotesque enemies your way, with boss fights that'll test your reflexes and your bravery. Using mounted light guns, you aim, shoot, and reload in rapid succession to fend off the hordes. The game also features branching paths, letting you choose your route through the mansion, which means every playthrough feels fresh. The mechanics are smooth, and the pacing keeps your adrenaline high, especially when the screen fills with enemies and you're frantically blasting away. The mansion is dripping with gothic vibes, candelabras, eerie portraits, and enough cobwebs to bankrupt a cleaning service. The sound design is equally spine-chilling, with groans, growls, and sudden shrieks keeping you on edge. And let's not forget the jump scares. Oh, the jump scares. They'll have you questioning your life choices, all while your friends laugh at your very real screams.
Stupid humans. It's time to put an end to this. By dawn, the god of destruction will be unleashed. All humans.
Zombie Revenge, 1999. Imagine the House of the Dead had a wild night out with a classic beat-em-up, and 9 months later, Zombie Revenge was born. This 1999 Sega arcade gem throws you into a city overrun by zombies, because apparently that's what happens when secret government projects go sideways. Your mission? Team up with fellow AMS agents Stick Brightling, Linda Rotter, and Rikia Busujima to clean up the mess, one undead punch at a time. The plot is delightfully over the top. A top-secret plan to create undead soldiers, because what could go wrong, gets hijacked, unleashing a zombie apocalypse on the city. You, as one of the 3 badass agents, are tasked with uncovering the mastermind behind the chaos while smashing through hordes of zombies and other grotesque creatures. Each character brings their own fighting style to the table, adding some flavor to the carnage. Gameplay is a glorious mix of hand-to-hand combat and firearms. You'll be pummeling zombies with combos, picking up shotguns, flamethrowers, and the occasional lead pipe to keep things interesting. The controls are straightforward, making it easy to jump in and start cracking skulls. Boss battles ramp up the challenge, requiring you to learn patterns and exploit weaknesses. Classic arcade fun. Plus, the game offers multiple modes and secrets, giving it that just one more playthrough appeal. The environments are dark and moody, filled with decrepit buildings and eerie alleyways that scream, bad things are about to happen. The enemy design is wonderfully grotesque, with zombies that look like they crawled out of your worst nightmares. And let's not forget the cheesy voice acting and dialogue that add a layer of B-movie goodness to the whole experience. It's a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, allowing you to revel in the absurdity while delivering solid, horror-infused beat-em-up action. Vampire Night, 2001. Step into a gothic world where vampires aren't just the stuff of legend, they're your next target practice. Vampire Night, a collaboration between Sega's WoW Entertainment and Namco, sinks its teeth into the light gun shooter genre, delivering an experience that's both thrilling and chilling. Released in arcades in 2000 and later for the PlayStation 2 in 2001, this game has you donning the mantle of vampire hunters Michel and Albert on a mission to vanquish the undead menace plaguing a quaint French village. The narrative plunges you into a centuries-old conflict. Set in 2006, the story follows hunters Michel and Albert as they confront their creator, Auguste, the mastermind behind a vampiric army terrorizing a French village. Their journey is fraught with peril as they battle through various stages, each with its own unique theme and formidable boss character. Gameplay is classic rail shooter fare with a few bloody twists. Armed with light guns, you blast through 6 meticulously designed stages, each with its own gothic aesthetic. Think snow-covered castles, fiery dungeons, and moonlit forests. The action is relentless, with enemies attacking from all angles, keeping you on your toes and your trigger finger busy. The game also introduces a cancel gauge for boss encounters, adding a layer of strategy as you time your shots to interrupt devastating attacks. The gothic environments are richly detailed, immersing you in a world that's as eerie as it is beautiful. The enemy design is delightfully macabre, with vampires and ghouls that would make Bram Stoker proud. The soundtrack complements the action perfectly, with haunting melodies that escalate the tension. And let's not forget the voice acting. It's the kind of campy, over-the-top performance that adds a layer of charm to the whole experience. Carnival, 1998. Ever wondered what would happen if your local carnival got possessed by evil spirits and decided to snack on your soul? Enter Carnival, Midway Games' 1998 light gun shooter that combines the whimsy of a fun fair with enough gore to make a butcher blush. This game doesn't just break the fourth wall, it demolishes it with a sledgehammer, inviting players into a twisted amusement park where every ride could be your last. The story kicks off in the fictional town of Greeley Valley, Iowa, where an urban legend speaks of a haunted carnival that rises from the grave when a golden token is inserted into the mouth of a jester's skull atop a tombstone. Naturally, our unnamed protagonist does exactly that, unleashing Carnival and its monstrous inhabitants. Armed with a trusty pump-action shotgun, you blast your way through 4 ghastly levels: Haunted House, Rickety Town, Freak Show, and the Big Top, each teeming with undead clowns, demonic dolls, and other nightmare fodder. Gameplay is a rail shooter extravaganza, with players using mounted shotguns to obliterate anything that moves and plenty that shouldn't. The controls are intuitive: point, shoot, and pump to reload. Power-ups like machine guns, flamethrowers, and acid rounds add variety to the carnage, while health pickups keep you in the fight. Each level culminates in a boss battle that's as challenging as it is grotesque, ensuring your trigger finger gets a workout. The game's art design is a twisted take on carnival attractions, with environments that are both whimsical and deeply unsettling. Enemies range from zombified carnies to axe-wielding Santa Claus lookalikes, each rendered with a level of detail that makes them both horrifying and darkly comedic. The soundtrack combines eerie tunes with maniacal laughter, keeping players on edge throughout the experience. It's this combination of horror and humour that has cemented Carnival as a cult classic in the arcade shooter genre. Splatterhouse, 1988. Okay, picture this. You and your significant other decide to take a romantic stroll near the ominously named West Mansion, because what could possibly go wrong? Cue a torrential downpour, a mad dash for shelter, and suddenly you're Rick Taylor, waking up in a blood-soaked nightmare with a hockey mask fused to your face. Welcome to Splatterhouse, Namco's 1988 side-scrolling beat-em-up that doesn't just flirt with horror. It takes it out for a bloody tango. The plot plot is a love letter to 80s horror tropes. Rick and his girlfriend Jennifer seek refuge from a storm in the notorious West Mansion, rumored to be the site of heinous experiments by the deranged Dr. West. Rick awakens to find Jennifer missing and himself bonded with the Terror Mask, an ancient artifact that grants him superhuman strength, perfect for punching through the legions of grotesque creatures standing between him and his damsel in distress. Gameplay is straightforward but satisfying. As Rick, you traverse 7 stages of side-scrolling mayhem, utilizing punches, kicks, and an assortment of weapons, cleavers, shotguns, and the occasional 2x4 to dispatch enemies. Each level culminates in a boss fight, ranging from a room possessed by poltergeists to a chainsaw-wielding maniac, reminiscent of certain horror film icons. The game's graphics were groundbreaking for their time, depicting blood, dismemberment, and monstrous designs with a level of detail that turned many an arcade patron's stomach in the best way possible. The atmospheric soundtrack and eerie sound effects further immerse players in the macabre setting. It's a game that pays homage to horror cinema. It revels in it, making you feel like the star of your own splatter film. Night Slashers, 1993. Try and think a world where every horror movie creature you've ever feared decides to throw a block party, and you're the uninvited guest tasked with cleaning up the mess. Enter Night Slashers, Data East's 1993 beat-em-up that tosses you into a supernatural slugfest against zombies, vampires, and other things that go bump in the night. It's like Final Fight crashed into a haunted house, and the results are gloriously gory. The plot is straightforward but effective. Monsters have overrun the world, and humanity's last hope rests on the shoulders of 3 uniquely skilled hunters. You've got Jake White, an American brawler with cybernetic arms, Christopher Smith, a European vampire hunter wielding the power of light, and Hong Hua, an Asian martial artist with a fiery flair. Together, they're on a mission to thwart the evil King Zarutz's plan to turn Earth into a kingdom for the undead. Gameplay is classic side-scrolling beat-em-up action with a horror twist. You and up to 2 friends can choose from the trio of heroes as you brawl through various stages, ranging from decrepit city streets to eerie laboratories. You'll encounter a menagerie of monsters, including werewolves, mummies, and even a knockoff Dracula. The combat is satisfyingly brutal, with each character boasting a range of attacks, including smart bomb moves that clear the screen of enemies at the cost of some health. The game also features environmental hazards and interactive elements, keeping you on your toes as you pummel the undead. The pixel art is delightfully gruesome, with splashes of blood and dismembered limbs aplenty. In fact, the Japanese version of the game features uncensored red blood, while the international release offers an option to adjust the blood colour and violence level. And let's not forget the campy charm. Between levels, the go arrow flips over to read "To Hell" in blood, and Christopher's melee attacks end with him holding out a cross, replaced with a blue crystal ball in some versions. It's these quirky touches that make Night Slashers a standout in the beat-em-up genre, offering a perfect mix of action and horror for those brave enough to take on the challenge. The House of the Dead, 1996. What do you get when you mix a zombie apocalypse with a team of trigger-happy agents and sprinkle in some 90s arcade charm? You get The House of the Dead, Sega's 1996 light gun classic that became a cornerstone of arcade horror games. This game doesn't just invite you to fight the undead, it practically shoves a gun in your hand and dares you to survive the madness. The story kicks off with AMS agents Thomas Rogan and G investigating the disappearance of Rogan's fiancée, Sophie, at the Curian mansion. As you might expect, the mansion is a breeding ground for horrific experiments gone wrong, courtesy of the deranged Dr. Curian. Armed with your trusty light guns, you must shoot your way through waves of grotesque zombies, mutant bats, and whatever nightmare fuel the game decides to throw at you. The plot unfolds through cutscenes and player interactions, giving the game a cinematic vibe. Gameplay is frantic and addictive. As a rail shooter, you don't control your character's movement, but focus entirely on aiming and shooting. Precision is key, as headshots are more effective, and environmental interactions can reveal shortcuts or save civilians for bonus points. The game features 4 chapters, each culminating in a boss fight that tests your reflexes and pattern recognition. And yes, you'll be reloading so much your fingers might cramp up, but it's all part of the fun. The eerie mansion, unsettling enemy designs, and chilling sound effects combine to create an experience that's both thrilling and terrifying. The grotesque bosses, like the hulking chariot and the leech-filled hangedman, are memorable for their designs and mechanics. Add in the iconic "so bad it's good" voice acting, and you've got a game that's equal parts spooky and unintentionally hilarious. If you're looking for an arcade horror game that defined a genre, The House of the Dead is a must-play. Just make sure to bring extra quarters, you'll need them.
I am the one who rules over nature. I shall destroy and hate man.
The House of the Dead 2, 1999. If The House of the Dead set the standard for arcade horror shooters, The House of the Dead 2 took that standard, strapped it to a zombie, and let it run amok. Released in 1999, this sequel cranked up the action, added more grotesque enemies, and made the voice acting even cheesier, if that's even possible. Sega didn't just double down, they went all in. Set 2 years after the original game, the story follows AMS agents James Taylor and Gary Stewart as they investigate a zombie outbreak in Venice, Italy. The source? Goldman, a shady CEO with a knack for resurrecting the dead. Along the way, you'll face hordes of zombies, save panicked civilians, and try to unravel Goldman's bizarre plot while dodging some of the most hilariously wooden dialogue ever recorded in gaming history. Suffer like G did? Legendary. The gameplay improves on its predecessor with sharper graphics, more interactive environments, and branching paths that add replayability. Depending on your choices, you'll uncover different areas, face alternate enemy layouts, and even get varied endings. The shooting mechanics remain satisfying, with a greater variety of enemies requiring quick reflexes and precise aim. Boss fights, like Judgment, a bat controlling a hulking suit of armor, and the Tower, a swarm of harpy-like creatures, challenge you to adapt your strategy while your trigger finger gets a workout. The Venice setting provides a hauntingly beautiful backdrop, with canals and crumbling architecture giving the game a unique atmosphere. The enemy designs are gruesome, ranging from shambling undead to aquatic monstrosities, and the soundtrack balances eerie melodies with intense action beats to keep your heart pounding. Despite its unintentional comedic moments, The House of the Dead 2 remains a masterpiece of the arcade horror genre. It's terrifying, hilarious, and endlessly fun. A perfect storm of campy, gory brilliance. Don't forget those extra quarters. You'll need them. Ghosts and Goblins, 1985. Before Dark Souls made us throw controllers, there was Ghosts and Goblins, Capcom's 1985 classic that introduced players to the phrase brutally difficult. You're Sir Arthur, a brave knight on a mission to rescue Princess Prin from Satan, or Astaroth depending on the version, armed with little more than a lance, some questionable armor, and a whole lot of determination. The plot kicks off with Arthur and Prin enjoying a romantic evening, because apparently chilling in a graveyard is peak date night. Suddenly, demons swoop in and snatch Prin away, sending Arthur on a 6-level journey through forests, caves, graveyards, and castles. Along the way, he faces waves of zombies, flying devils, and bosses like the dreaded Red Arima, all determined to ruin his heroic vibes. Gameplay is where Ghosts and Goblins shines and frustrates. Arthur can only take 2 hits before he dies, with the first hit leaving him running around in his underwear. The controls are simple: jump, throw weapons, and pray you don't miss a crucial platform. The game's difficulty lies in its relentless enemies, tricky jumps, and the infamous twist. You have to beat the entire game twice to see the true ending. And yes, the developers were fully aware of how much rage this would induce. The pixel art captures a creepy yet colourful world, with haunted graveyards and demon-filled castles that feel alive, or undead. And the horror elements, zombies bursting out of the ground, grotesque bosses, and relentless attacks keep you on edge. It's the kind of game that frustrates you, but you can't stop playing because every small victory feels monumental. If you're up for a challenge and want to experience where arcade horror really began, Ghosts and Goblins is a must-play. Just don't be surprised if it leaves you shouting at your screen. It's all part of the experience. Ghouls and Ghosts, 1988. If you thought rescuing Princess Prin once was enough, think again. In Ghouls and Ghosts, Capcom's 1988 sequel to the infamously challenging Ghosts and Goblins, our valiant knight Arthur is back, and so are the legions of undead determined to ruin his day. This time, the stakes are higher, the enemies are nastier, and Arthur's wardrobe malfunctions are as frequent as ever. The plot picks up 3 years after the original game. Just when you thought it was safe to to propose in a haunted kingdom, Lucifer, known as Loki in some versions, decides to crash the party by launching beams of light that snatch away souls, including that of Princess Prinprin. Arthur, ever the chivalrous knight, dons his armor once more to traverse eerie landscapes, battle demonic creatures, and confront Lucifer himself to restore the stolen souls. Gameplay retains the brutal difficulty of its predecessor, but introduces some nifty upgrades. Arthur can now fire his weapons upward and downward while jumping, a feature that feels like discovering the medieval equivalent of Wi-Fi. The arsenal has expanded, offering new weapons like the discus and the magical sword, each with unique abilities. Stumble upon a treasure chest, and you might find golden armor that lets Arthur unleash powerful magic attacks, or an evil magician eager to transform you into a helpless duck. The levels are diverse, ranging from haunted villages to crystal forests, each filled with enemies that seem to have a personal vendetta against armored knights. And let's not forget the horror of watching Arthur's armor disintegrate with a single hit, leaving him to face the forces of darkness in nothing but his boxer shorts. A true knight's nightmare. Aliens, 1990. Based on the 1986 film, this game lets you embody either Lieutenant Ellen Ripley or Corporal Dwayne Hicks, armed to the teeth and ready to rescue colonists from the nightmarish creatures lurking on LV-426. The plot mirrors the film's intensity. The Weyland-Yutani Corporation has lost contact with its colony on LV-426, prompting the deployment of colonial marines to investigate. As Ripley or Hicks, players navigate through the desolate colony, battling hordes of xenomorphs and other grotesque mutations, all while striving to save any remaining survivors and confront the alien queen herself. Gameplay here gives you some solid run-and-gun action with occasional forays into first-person shooting sequences. Armed with iconic weapons like the M56 smart gun, flamethrowers, and missile launchers, players traverse various levels teeming with enemies. The cooperative mode allowed 2 players to team up, amplifying the thrill as you mow down waves of aliens together. The pixel art captures the eerie, claustrophobic environments of the alien-infested colony, while the soundtrack intensifies the sense of dread. The game's difficulty is unforgiving, with relentless enemy attacks and formidable boss battles that keep players on edge. The inclusion of scenes and creatures inspired by the movie, combined with the high-stakes action, makes Aliens a standout in the arcade horror genre.
Crypt Killer.
Crypt Killer, 1995. Ever fancied yourself as a treasure hunter with a penchant for blasting the undead? Enter Crypt Killer, Konami's 1995 light gun shooter that combines Indiana Jones-style adventuring with enough horror elements to keep you on the edge of your seat. Known as Henry Explorers in Japan, this game takes you on a rail-shooting journey through ancient crypts teeming with supernatural foes. The premise is straightforward. You're on a quest for the Eyes of Guidance, mystical crystals said to unlock ultimate treasure. Guided by a mysterious figure, you delve into 6 distinct stages, each filled with hordes of monsters determined to make your expedition a short one. From eerie forests to underwater labyrinths, each level presents unique challenges and a variety of enemies, including skeletons, zombies, and other ghastly creatures. Gameplay is classic rail shooter fare. Armed with a shotgun, you navigate predetermined paths, blasting anything that moves and plenty that shouldn't. The game supported up to 3 players simultaneously, and each stage culminated in a boss battle, testing your reflexes and aim. The 3D environments, combined with 2D sprite enemies, create a unique visual style that, while dated by today's standards, adds to the game's charm. The game's difficulty and branching paths offer replayability, challenging players to explore different routes and discover hidden secrets. Alien 3, The Gun, 1993. Lock and load, it's xenomorph season. When life hands you a xenomorph infestation, what do? You grab the nearest light gun and start blasting, of course. Enter Alien 3, The Gun, Sega's 1993 arcade rail shooter that takes the grim atmosphere of Alien 3 and injects it with a hefty dose of high-octane action. Think of it as Ripley's worst nightmare, but with unlimited ammo and a buddy by your side. The game serves as an alternate retelling retelling of the film's events. Instead of following Ellen Ripley, players assume the roles of two colonial marines dispatched to the USS Sulaco to investigate a distress signal. After a brief skirmish with a super facehugger, our heroes find themselves crash-landed on Fiorina Fury 161, the prison planet from the movie. However, this version of Fury 161 is teeming with xenomorphs, hundreds of them, turning the desolate facility into a shooting gallery of extraterrestrial horrors. Gameplay is classic rail shooter fare, with players using mounted light guns modelled after the iconic M41A pulse rifle to mow down waves of alien adversaries. The game guides you through various environments, from the claustrophobic corridors of the Sulaco to the industrial wastelands of Fury 161. Along the way, you'll encounter a variety of xenomorph types, including facehuggers, chestbursters, and the formidable alien warriors. The game's graphics, while dated by today's standards, effectively convey the dark, oppressive environments fans associate with the series. The sound design is equally compelling, featuring the eerie screeches of xenomorphs and the satisfying thud of your pulse rifle in action. The game's difficulty ramps up quickly, with relentless enemy waves designed to keep players on edge. It's a heart-pounding experience that captures the essence of the Alien universe, making it a standout title in the arcade shooter genre. Chaos Heat, 1998. If Chaos Heat isn't on your radar, then buckle up. It's Taito's 1998 arcade thriller that combines tactical shooting, fast-paced action, and a setting straight out of a sci-fi horror flick. Think Aliens meets Resident Evil, but with arcade vibes and a lot more explosions. It's frantic, chaotic, and oh so satisfying if you love mowing down mutated monstrosities. The plot is classic science gone wrong territory. A high-tech biolab in Tokyo has been overrun by biomutants and zombies after an experiment goes haywire. You play as one of 3 DEF, Destructive Engagement Force agents: Rick, the all-rounder, Mitsuki, the fast and nimble one, or Vogt, the heavy hitter with a flamethrower obsession. Each brings unique abilities to the table, letting you blast your way through a labyrinthine facility teeming with mutated horrors. Gameplay is a top-down, run-and-gun style with tactical elements that set it apart from your typical arcade shooter. The control scheme lets you dodge roll, aim in multiple directions, and deploy special attacks that can clear a screen of enemies in seconds. Sub-weapons like napalm and gas grenades make dealing with larger mobs a blast, literally, and the variety of grotesque bosses, from massive biomutants to rogue machines, ensures you're never short on action or panic-inducing moments. The dimly lit corridors and eerie atmosphere keep you on edge, while the grotesque enemy designs and haunting soundtrack drive home the horror. With multiple endings depending on your performance, the game rewards skilled players while keeping you coming back for more. It's the kind of arcade experience that sticks with you and maybe gives you a few nightmares along the way. Space Gun, 1990. It's 2039, and humanity's deep space exploration has hit a snag, namely hostile aliens turning our spacecraft into their personal playgrounds. Enter Space Gun, Taito's 1990 arcade rail shooter that arms you with a hefty light gun and tasks you with rescuing crew members while blasting extraterrestrial baddies into gooey bits. It's like Aliens meets Operation Wolf. The plot is straightforward. Respond to a distress signal from a crippled space station overrun by aliens. Your mission? Save the human hostages and eliminate the alien threat. As you navigate the station's corridors, you'll encounter various extraterrestrial nasties, some of which require strategic dismemberment. Yes, you can shoot their limbs off to effectively neutralize them. Occasionally, you'll face the moral dilemma of hostages mutating into aliens before your eyes, forcing split-second decisions on whether to save or, well, you get the idea. Gameplay is classic rail shooter action with a few twists. Armed with a mounted light gun resembling a futuristic rifle, you can collect ammo for special weapons like flamethrowers, grenade launchers, freeze bombs, and blade bombs. The arcade cabinet features foot pedals that allow you to backpedal, giving you more time to deal with oncoming threats, a feature that predates similar mechanics in games like Time Crisis. Levels are divided into subsections, each ending with a boss fight, and players can often choose their path by shooting at doors or arrows, adding a layer of strategy to the alien blasting mayhem. What sets Space Gun apart is its atmospheric presentation and horror elements. The game's graphics, while vintage, effectively convey the claustrophobic and eerie environment of a besieged space station. The ability to dismember aliens, complete with blood splatters, adds a visceral satisfaction to the shooting mechanics. It's a game that combines the thrill of arcade shooting with the suspense of a space horror narrative, delivering an engaging experience for fans of both genres. Haunted Castle, 1988. What if you're tying the knot, only to have your bride snatched away by Dracula mid-ceremony? That's the premise of Haunted Castle, Konami's 1988 arcade entry in the Castlevania series. You step into the armoured boots of Simon Belmont, armed with a whip and a mission. Traverse Dracula's monstrous mansion to rescue your wife, Selena. The game unfolds across 6 stages, each teeming with supernatural adversaries like skeletons, zombies, and Medusa heads. The environments range from eerie forests to the ominous castle interior, culminating in a showdown with Dracula himself. Along the way, you'll find weapon upgrades, such as a Morning Star and a sword, and sub-weapons like bombs and boomerangs to aid in your quest. Haunted Castle is notorious for its punishing difficulty. Enemies deal significant damage, and the platforming challenges require precise timing. The arcade routes are evident, designed to consume quarters as players battle through relentless foes and tricky terrain. The game's atmospheric graphics and haunting soundtrack contribute to its gothic horror vibe, immersing players in a dark, treacherous world. Despite its challenges, Haunted Castle holds a special place in the Castlevania lineage. Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica Arcade 2001 Code Veronica lets you step directly into the shoes of Claire Redfield, facing the horrors of Rockfort Island up close and personal. Developed by Capcom in collaboration with Namco, this 2001 release offers a fresh perspective on familiar terror. The game reimagines the events of Code Veronica, placing players in a series of timed stages where the goal is to survive relentless enemy assaults and escape within the allotted time. You can choose to play as either Claire Redfield or Steve Burnside, each equipped with unique weapons and abilities. The narrative is streamlined, focusing on action-packed sequences rather than the intricate storytelling of the main series. Gameplay shifts to a first-person perspective, utilizing light gun mechanics for an immersive shooting experience. Players navigate through various environments inspired by Code Veronica, battling classic enemies like zombies, bandersnatches, and the ever-terrifying Nemesis. The arcade version employs a mounted gun controller, while the PlayStation 2 port supports the GunCon 2 peripheral, enhancing the interactive experience. The game features multiple modes, including an arcade mode with 5 stages and a dungeon mode offering randomized challenges for added replayability. The first-person perspective intensifies the horror elements, bringing players face-to-face with grotesque creatures in a race against time. The game's design encourages quick reflexes and strategic resource management, all while maintaining the eerie ambience characteristic of the Resident Evil series. It's a unique spin-off that offers both fans and newcomers a thrilling, albeit condensed, journey into the world of survival horror. Beastbusters, 1989. Back in 1989, SNK unleashed Beastbusters, a rail shooter that let you and 2 buddies mow down hordes of the undead with mounted machine guns. It was like a zombie apocalypse-themed amusement park ride, but with more pixelated blood. The plot is delightfully straightforward. A mysterious outbreak has turned a city into a playground for zombies and other nasties. Enter our heroes, Johnny Justice, Paul Patriot, and Sammy Stately. 3 heavily armed militiamen with a knack for exterminating the undead. Their mission? Blast their way through 7 stages of chaos, uncover the source of the infestation, and save the day. The arcade cabinet featured 3 mounted guns, allowing for simultaneous 3-player action, a novelty at the time. Players navigate through various environments, from city streets to underground labs, facing off against a menagerie of monsters. Power-ups like rockets, grenades, and health packs are scattered throughout the level, levels, providing much-needed assistance against formidable bosses, including a zombie punk who mutates into a dog and a possessed jeep that comes to life. The game doesn't shy away from gore, with enemies exploding into chunks upon defeat. The bosses are memorably bizarre, and the relentless pace keeps players on their toes. Its cooperative gameplay and horror-themed aesthetic made it a standout in arcades, paving the way for future multiplayer shooters. Death Crimson Ox, 2001. Ever find yourself yearning for a light gun shooter that combines over-the-top action with a storyline straight out of a sci-fi anime fever dream? Enter Death Crimson Ox, the third installment in Nicole Software's Death Crimson series, which made its arcade debut in 2000 before blasting its way onto the Dreamcast in 2001. It's like the House of the Dead took a detour through a neon-lit, dystopian Tokyo and picked up a penchant for the bizarre along the way. The plot is delightfully convoluted. It's the year 2010, and the city of Veronica has been decimated by the nefarious SMO organization, which has unleashed monstrous beings known as subliminers to oppress the populace. You step into the shoes of Ko Yanami, a rogue SMO agent who, armed with the ancient superweapon pistols known as Crimsons, joins forces with Yuri, the daughter of the resistance leader Lily. Their mission? Rescue Lily, dismantle SMO's plans, and maybe figure out why everything looks like a cyberpunk nightmare. Gameplay sticks to the classic light gun formula: point, shoot, reload, repeat. Whether you're wielding a trusty light gun peripheral or resorting to a standard controller, you'll blast through waves of enemies ranging from skeletal warriors to mechanical monstrosities. The game offers multiple modes, including story mode, mission mode for level-specific challenges, and bullet mode, which tests your accuracy and ammo conservation skills. Each stage culminates in a boss battle, often against foes with names that sound like they were pulled from a random word generator, like Sword the Stink. The graphics are a kaleidoscope of vibrant colours and eccentric enemy designs, creating an atmosphere that's as unsettling as it is intriguing. The soundtrack leans heavily into rock territory, providing a high-energy backdrop to the on-screen chaos. While the game doesn't shy away from gore, it's presented in such an over-the-top manner that it borders on the absurd, making the horror elements more campy than terrifying. It's a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, inviting players to revel in its eccentricities and enjoy the ride, no matter how wild it gets. The Real Ghostbusters, 1987. Who you gonna call when the arcade is haunted by pixelated poltergeists? The Real Ghostbusters, of course. Released by Data East in 1987, this top-down, multi-directional shooter lets up to 3 players don proton packs and zap their way through 10 levels teeming with supernatural baddies. It's like stepping into the animated series, but with a pocket full of quarters and a craving for high scores. The game loosely follows the premise of the beloved cartoon. Players control one of the Ghostbusters, Peter Venkman, Ray Stantz, or Egon Spengler, each distinguished by different colours. Your mission? Navigate various haunted locales, blast away at an array of ghoulish creatures, and use your proton beam to capture the ghosts they leave behind. It's a spectral cleanup job only the Ghostbusters can handle. Armed with an 8-way joystick and 2 buttons, players shoot at enemies with their standard weapon and deploy the proton beam to ensnare and capture ghosts. Power-ups are scattered throughout the levels, offering enhancements like shot and beam boosters, protective auras, and even a Slimer companion who hovers around, zapping enemies on contact. The game challenges players with diverse environments and increasingly tough adversaries, culminating in boss battles that test your ghost-busting prowess. The graphics capture the colourful, whimsical essence of the show, and the soundtrack features a well-orchestrated rendition of the iconic theme song, immersing players in the Ghostbusters universe. It's a game that doesn't just let you watch the Ghostbusters in action, it hands you a proton pack and throws you into the fray. Area 51. In Area 51, you step into the combat boots of a member of the elite Strategic Tactical Advanced Alien Response STAR team. Your mission: infiltrate the top-secret Area 51 facility, now overrun by the Crone, a hostile alien race, and their legion of zombified human soldiers. The objective is clear: neutralize the alien threat and prevent them from launching a full-scale invasion. The game guides you through various sections of the base, including warehouses and underground tunnels, each teeming with enemies that require quick reflexes and sharp shooting to overcome. Gameplay is on rails, meaning the game controls your movement, allowing you to focus solely on aiming and shooting. Armed with a light gun, players must eliminate waves of enemies, carefully avoiding harm to fellow STAR team members, as friendly fire results in a loss of life points. The game features destructible environments, with certain objects revealing power-ups or alternate paths when shot. Special weapons like grenades can be collected, providing a wider blast radius to take out multiple foes simultaneously. The game's use of digitized actors for enemy sprites adds a layer of realism, making the zombified soldiers and alien creatures more unsettling. The dimly lit corridors and eerie sound design contribute to a tense atmosphere, keeping players on edge as they navigate the facility. The horror is amplified by the sudden appearances of enemies, requiring quick reactions to avoid being overwhelmed. Luigi's Mansion Arcade. In this game, players assume the role of Luigi, who is once again tasked with clearing spooky mansions of their ghostly inhabitants. Guided by Professor E. Gadd, Luigi explores various haunted locales, including the gloomy manor, old clockworks, and treacherous mansion, settings fans will recognize from Luigi's Mansion: Dark Moon. Armed with the trusty Poltergust 5000, a specialized vacuum cleaner designed for capturing ghosts, players navigate through eerie corridors and rooms, encountering a variety of spectral foes along the way. The arcade cabinet is equipped with a replica of the Poltergust, which players use to interact with the game. To capture ghosts, players must first stun them using the attached strobulb by pressing a button, then vacuum them up by holding the trigger. The game guides players through each mansion on rails, allowing them to focus on ghost catching without worrying about navigation. As players progress, they encounter increasingly challenging ghosts and bosses, requiring quick reflexes and strategic use of the Poltergust's features. The horror elements in Luigi's Mansion Arcade are presented with a charming, family-friendly twist. While the game features dark, atmospheric environments and a variety of spooky ghosts, the overall tone remains light-hearted, with Luigi's humorous reactions adding to the fun. And that's it, folks. 20 absolutely perfect arcade horror games that prove the arcade era wasn't just about high scores, but also high stakes and high screams. Whether it was blasting xenomorphs in Aliens or surviving Dracula's mansion in Haunted Castle, these games took us on unforgettable journeys. What's your favourite arcade horror game? Did we miss one that made you jump out of your skin? Let us know in the comments. We love hearing your stories. And don't forget to smash that like button if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane. Hit subscribe to stay updated on more gaming goodness, and we'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep those quarters handy and the screams coming.